We are fortunate that under the Joe Biden administration, Dr. Anthony Fauci is not holding back the actual science of how things work and of medical science. And we know now that during the Trump administration, there was a friction that made it, to make it very understated, we could call it a friction. It made it so that there was a rift between the science of coronavirus and the Trump administration's position on coronavirus. Since Donald Trump left, we've been hearing the science from Dr. Fauci, and the White House has simply been on board with that. And that's a very good thing. In this vein, Dr. Fauci yesterday or the day before responded to comments made earlier in the week by Fox News host Tucker Carlson, which we covered, where Tucker suggested that parents who make their children wear face coverings are engaging in a form of child abuse, and that if you see a child wearing a mask, you should call Child Protective Services to report child abuse. The entire rant was delusional by Tucker. Here's just a little bit of it as a reminder.
If you dare to go on foot from Union Station to the Capitol, for example, in Washington without wearing a mask, angry Biden voters will snort at you in judgment. How could you? They're saying from behind the gauze. How could you? That's the question we should be asking of them in return. The rest of us should be snorting at them first. They're the aggressors. It's our job to brush them back and restore the society we were born in. So the next time you see someone in a mask on the sidewalk or on the bike path, do not hesitate. Ask politely but firmly, would you please take off your mask? Science shows there is no reason for you to be wearing it. Your mask is making me uncomfortable. We should do that, and we should keep doing it until wearing a mask outside is roughly as socially accepted as lighting a Marlboro in an elevator. It's repulsive. Don't do it around other people. That's the message we should send because it's true. As for forcing children to wear masks outside, that should be illegal. Your response when you see children wearing masks as they play should be no different from your response to seeing someone beat a kid in Walmart. Call the police immediately. Contact Child Protective Services. Keep calling until someone arrives. What you're looking at is abuse. It's child abuse, and you are morally obligated to attempt to prevent it. If it's your own children being abused, then act accordingly. Let's say your kid's school emailed you to announce that every day after lunch, your sixth grader was going to get punched in the face by a teacher. How would you respond to that? That's precisely how you should respond when they tell you that your kids have to wear masks on the soccer field. That is unacceptable, it is dangerous, and we should act like it, because it is. But too few of us have responded like that.
So Dr. Fauci was asked about this, and he responded in very clear and incredibly certain terms. Take a listen.
You know, I think that's self-evident that that's bizarre, Jim. I don't want to get into a back and forth with Tucker Carlson, but I mean, it's just almost self-evident. You're talking about child abuse? Really? Come on.
Now, the problem, of course, is that anybody who believes Tucker to begin with is not likely to care what Dr. Fauci says. I've spoken to many teachers because I have many friends that are teachers, and they told me, you know, the last thing we need right now when we're trying to get back to teaching is Child Protective Services being called by Fox News viewers because the kids are wearing masks. If we are to think of the kids, that's not good for the kids. And then the other thing I've noticed is kids really don't seem bothered by the masks. Like, I hate the masks. I, of course, wear them, but I don't like wearing a mask. It's not particularly comfortable. Now that they're not required outdoors as a vaccinated person, I'm no longer wearing them outdoors. But the kids I see with them and friends who have kids and they talk to me about it, they all say the kids don't mind it at all. We seem to find it as adults. We seem to find the masks more annoying than the children. I would actually argue that subjecting children to Tucker Carlson's rants is way closer to abuse than simply wearing a mask at school. And consider the position that Dr. Fauci has now been in for more than a year. He is a doctor specializing in immunology during a global 100-year pandemic. And he ends up, thanks to the Trump administration and of sycophants like those of Fox News fame, Dr. Fauci ends up in the position of having to go on TV to try to disabuse people of the propaganda that comes from the former administration. Dr. Fauci goes on TV and has to try to disabuse people of Tucker Carlson's nonsense disinformation. Remember that Fox News lawyers stated during a defense of Tucker Carlson in a legal complaint, quote, no reasonable person would take Tucker Carlson literally. It is entertainment. It is not news. He uses hyperbole. He uses exaggeration. And it's quite similar to the Alex Jones defense of you can't go after Alex Jones for things that he says on his show because he is essentially playing a character on his show. And certainly no one should take it seriously, Jones or Tucker Carlson, but there are a lot of unreasonable people who watch Tucker and do believe it's a news show. Now, my last thought on this, merely as a curiosity, as a thought experiment, what would happen if someone called Child Protective Services or even 911 and said, I'm calling to report that children are being forced to wear masks? Does anyone show up? In certain situations, police have to show up. If you call with a certain complaint and then say, sorry, cancel it, there are certain types of things where police have to just go and check things out. If you call and say children are wearing masks, would anyone even listen to you? Or is Tucker's suggestion, if followed, just destined to be ignored by Child Protective Services? Now, the other strange thing about the anti-maskers is that many of them believe COVID is a lab-made bioweapon from China. If you really believed that COVID was a bioengineered bioweapon from China, why the hell wouldn't you be wearing a mask? That, again, is an example of where a lot of these anti-science beliefs conflict when you put two of them together. Needless to say, hopefully not that much longer that Dr. Fauci will need to be on TV refuting this nonsense. Maybe that's optimistic thinking. I don't know. One of our sponsors today is Sheath Underwear. The weather is warming up, and as many of us know, that can be associated with sticking, rubbing, chafing with traditional underwear. Sheath Underwear creates boxer briefs that solve it all. Sheath Underwear was developed by a U.S. soldier who spent time deployed in the desert. He was looking for a way to be more comfortable, and he designed something that's great even just for everyday use. Sheath boxer briefs have multiple ergonomic compartments in front to prevent skin-on-skin contact, keeping everything separate, cool, dry, and comfortable. So Sheath Underwear will prevent the sweatiness and the chafing and the readjusting. And Sheath Underwear is giving the David Pakman Show audience 20% off when you go to sheathunderwear.com/Pakman and use the promo code Pakman. My experience with Sheath Underwear has been great. Yours will be as well if you give it a try. The link is right underneath this video. Don't forget to use that promo code Pakman for 20% off.